The wind on 442B was cold and dry. It carried red dust across the plains and made a sound like a whisper. Commander Jake Collins pulled his helmet and looked at the horizon. The sun here was smaller than Earth's sun. It gave less light and less heat, but it was enough for life. That was why they had come. Humanity had been traveling between stars for 80 years now. It was not a long time. They had been doing it for 12,000 years. They had been doing it for 9,000. Even the youngest species in the Galactic Council had been flying starships for at least 2,000 years. Humans were new, very new. The other species called them the cubs. It was not a kind word. It meant they were young and foolish and did not understand the rules of the galaxy. Jake did not like being called a cub. He was 43 years old. He had a wife and 2 children back on Earth. He had fought in the Mars Rebellion and helped build the first colony on Europa. He was not a child. But to the aliens, all humans were children. They had only just learned to walk among the stars. They had so much to learn. Dr. Amy walked beside him. She was the team's expert on alien history and old things. Her job was to study what other species had left behind. She was good at her job. She had found 3 lost cities on different worlds. She had solved puzzles that other scientists could not solve. Today she looked excited. Her eyes were bright behind her helmet glass. "The readings are getting stronger," she said. "There is something big under the ground here, something very old." Jake looked at his scanner. She was right. The machine showed a large object about 50 meters below the surface. It was made of materials that the scanner did not recognize. That was unusual. The scanner knew about most materials in the galaxy. "How old do you think it is?" Jake asked. Amy checked her own scanner. She did a few calculations. Then she stopped walking. Her face went pale. "This cannot be right," she said. "What is it?" "The scanner says this object is at least 3 billion years old." Jake felt his stomach drop. 3 billion years. That was older than any known civilization. The architects had vanished 2 billion years ago, and they were the oldest species anyone knew about. Whatever was under the ground here was older than even them. "We need to dig," Amy said. They called the rest of the team. There were 8 people in total. They set up the drilling equipment and started to cut through the rock and dirt. It took 6 hours to reach the object. When they broke through the last layer of stone, Jake was the first one to climb down into the hole. He turned on his light and looked around. He was standing in a room. The walls were smooth and gray. They were made of a material that looked like metal but felt like glass. There was no dust here, no dirt. The room was perfectly clean, even after 3 billion years. In the center of the room there was a console. It was about the size of a dining table. Its surface was covered with crystals of different colors: blue, green, red, gold. They glowed with a soft inner light. "Amy," Jake said into his radio, "you need to see this." Amy came down the rope. When she saw the console, she stopped breathing for a moment. Her hands began to shake. "Do you know what this is?" Jake asked. Amy shook her head. "I have never seen anything like this. The symbols on the crystals. They look similar to architect writing, but not exactly the same. This might be even older than the architects." She walked around the console slowly. She took pictures with her scanner. She recorded everything she saw. "We should not touch it," Jake said. "We should call the council, let them send experts." Amy nodded. She knew he was right. This was too important to risk. They should wait for people who knew more than they did. But as she walked around the console, her foot caught on a raised part of the floor. She stumbled forward. Her hand reached out to stop her fall. Her fingers touched one of the crystals. The room filled with light. Jake covered his eyes. The light was too bright. It hurt even through his closed eyelids. He heard Amy scream. He heard the other team members shouting into the radio. Then the light faded. Jake opened his eyes. Amy was standing by the console. She was not hurt, but her face was full of fear. "What happened?" Jake asked. "I do not know," Amy said. "I touched it and then I felt something, like a door opening in my mind, like 1,000 doors opening at once." Jake grabbed her arm. "Are you okay? Do you feel sick?" "No, I feel different. I cannot explain it." Jake looked at the console. The crystals were glowing brighter now. They were pulsing with light like a heartbeat. His radio crackled. It was Captain Lisa Monroe, who was waiting in orbit on their ship. "Commander Collins," she said. Her voice was strange. It was high and fast. She sounded scared. "Something is happening. I am getting readings from across the galaxy. Thousands of signals are appearing. Millions of signals. They are all activating at once." "What kind of signals?" Jake asked. "I do not know. They are coming from everywhere, from planets, from moons, from empty space. Things are turning on. Things that were sleeping are waking up." Jake looked at Amy. She looked back at him. They both understood. She had touched the console, and something had answered. They spent the next 2 hours trying to understand what had happened. Captain Monroe sent them data from the ship's sensors. The data was impossible to believe. Across the galaxy, ancient systems were coming online. Satellites that had floated dead in space for millions of years were now sending signals. Stations that nobody knew existed were powering up. On 100 different worlds, buried machines were rising from the ground. The older species were panicking. They were sending emergency messages to all their colonies. They were pulling their ships back to their home system. Everyone was scared. But the signals were not weapons. They were not attacks. They were something else. They were waiting. They were listening. They were asking a question. And they were asking it to the humans. Jake stood in the ancient room and looked at the console. The crystals pulsed with light. They seemed to be looking at him, waiting for him to do something. "What is this thing?" he asked. Amy had been studying the symbols on the console. She had found patterns in them. She had begun to understand a little bit of what they meant. "I think," she said slowly, "that this is a control system, a very old control system. It connects to everything the architects ever built, every station, every satellite, every machine on every world." "A control system for what?" Amy looked at him. Her face was pale, but her eyes were bright. "For everything," she said. "This is the remote control, and we just turned on the television." Jake did not understand what she meant, but he would. Soon, everyone would understand. The Cubs had found something they were not supposed to find, and the galaxy would never be the same. Admiral Laura Price had not slept in 3 days. She sat in the command center of the United Nations Space Command in Geneva and watched the screens. Every screen showed something new. Every screen showed something impossible. The signals from 442b had changed everything. Ancient technology was waking up all over the galaxy, and for some reason, it was responding to humans. "Admiral," said her aide, a young man named Chris, "we have another report from the Horizon." Laura rubbed her eyes. The Horizon was a research ship. It had been sent to study one of the awakened stations near the edge of human space. "What happened now?" she asked. Chris looked nervous. Lieutenant Danny Vance was examining the station's navigation systems. He was wondering if the station could show what lies beyond the galactic barrier. "Nobody has ever crossed the barrier. We do not have ships fast enough." And the station opened a gateway right there in front of the ship, a gateway that goes beyond the barrier. The Horizon sent a probe through. "There are galaxies out there, Admiral, thousands of them, and the probe is sending back clear signals. The gateway is stable." Laura felt dizzy. For 100 years, humans had dreamed of crossing the galactic barrier. The energy required was too great. The distances were too far. But now, because one young officer had wondered about it, a door had opened. "How is this possible?" she asked. "We do not know. Doctor believes that the architect technology responds to human thought patterns. When we want something, it tries to give it to us. Laura shook her head. This was madness. Technology should not work this way. You did not get things just by wanting them. You had to work for them. You had to study and experiment and fail 100 times before you succeeded. But the architect machines did not care about that. They cared about what humans wanted. And humans wanted a lot of things. The next report came from the colony ship, which was traveling to a new world called Haven 7. The ship's engineer, Ben, had been having trouble with the propulsion system. The engines were old and slow. The trip to Haven 7 would take 8 years. Ben had been frustrated. He had been thinking about how nice it would be to have faster engines. Engines that could bend space and time. Engines that could cross the galaxy in days instead of years. The next morning, he woke up to find complete blueprints on his computer screen. Plans for engines that no human had ever imagined. Plans that would change everything. Ben built a small test model. It worked. It worked better than anything humans had ever built. That would reach Haven 7 in 3 weeks instead of 8 years. Laura read the report and felt fear growing in her stomach. This was too fast. Humans were not ready for this. They did not understand what they were doing. But the architect machines did not care about that either. The older species were watching. They were watching and they were afraid. High Counselor of the had called an emergency meeting. Laura had been invited to attend by video link. She sat in her office and watched the alien leaders argue. Was tall and thin, with green scales and yellow eyes. His voice was calm, but his words were not. The humans have activated architect technology, he said. Technology that has been dormant for 2 billion years. Technology that we have spent thousands of years trying to understand. And they did it by accident, by touching something they should not have touched. Ambassador of the spoke next. The looked like large insects. They had 6 arms and 3 eyes. They were known for being very careful and very patient. We must act quickly, said. The humans do not understand what they have done. They are like children playing with fire. They will burn themselves. They will burn us all. Laura felt her face grow hot with anger. She wanted to defend her species, but she knew that was not entirely wrong. Humans were making mistakes. Strange things were happening. Just yesterday, a human child on Earth had been watching a documentary about dinosaurs. She had been thinking about how cool it would be to see a real dinosaur. On 3 different moons, machines had turned on and started creating dinosaurs from genetic information. Living dinosaurs. The machines were stopped before the dinosaurs were finished, but it had been very close. And then there was the incident with Lieutenant Nick. He had been stationed on a ship near the border. He had been feeling homesick. He missed his parents. He missed their house in Ohio. He missed the smell of his mother's cooking. A wormhole had opened in space. It led directly to his parents' backyard. His mother had been hanging laundry when a hole in reality appeared next to her rose bushes. She had screamed so loud that the neighbors called the police. These were not planned events. These were accidents. Humans were triggering ancient technology without meaning to, without understanding. The older species had spent thousands of years learning to control their thoughts before they touched powerful technology. They had developed discipline and focus. They knew that wanting something was not the same as being ready for it. Humans had no such training. They wanted things all the time. They dreamed and wished and hoped. Their minds were always moving, always reaching, always curious. And now, every wish was becoming real. Laura watched the council meeting continue. More species spoke. Most of them wanted humans to be stopped. Some wanted humans to be punished. A few wanted humans to be destroyed entirely. Ambassador Cross from Earth sat in the council chamber. She was a small woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. She had been a diplomat for 30 years. She had talked her way out of 3 wars, but this was different. This was not a war she could end with words. My species means no harm, said when it was her turn to speak. We did not ask for this power. We did not seek it. We are learning as fast as we can. We are trying to understand what we have awakened. Counselor looked at her with his yellow eyes. Learning takes time, he said. Time that we may not have. Every hour your people trigger new systems. Every hour chaos spreads. How long until someone wishes for something truly terrible? How long until someone dreams of a weapon that destroys worlds? Had no answer for that. Laura turned off the video link. She could not watch anymore. She walked to the window and looked out at the night sky. The stars seemed brighter now, or maybe that was just her imagination. She did not know anymore. She did not know what was real and what was wished into being. Her phone rang. It was Doctor from 442B. Admiral, Amy said, I have been studying the console. I think I understand it better now. The architect technology is not random. It is learning. It is learning how humans think. Every time we trigger something, it understands us a little more. What does that mean? Laura asked. I do not know yet, but I think this is not an accident. I think the architects designed this system to respond to a certain type of mind, a mind that is curious, a mind that reaches without fear, a mind that wants to see what happens when you push the button. Laura thought about that. Humans were always pushing buttons. It was how they learned. It was how they discovered fire and invented the wheel and split the atom. They did not wait to understand things completely. They tried them and saw what happened. Maybe that was a weakness, but maybe it was also a strength. Keep studying, Laura said. Find out everything you can. We need to understand this before the Council decides to destroy us. She hung up and looked at the stars again. Somewhere out there, ancient machines were listening. They were waiting for humans to want something. And humans always wanted something. The television was changing channels, and nobody knew how to turn it off. The council chamber was the largest room in the galaxy. It floated in space at the center of a great station, far from any sun or planet. 26 species had sent their leaders here. They sat in circles that rose up toward a domed ceiling made of glass. Through the glass, 1,000 stars looked down on them. High Counselor stood at the center of the chamber. His green scales caught the light as he turned to face each section of the room. His voice was broadcast to every translator in every ear. We are here to decide the fate of humanity, he said. This is not a decision we make lightly, but we cannot wait any longer. Every day brings new chaos. Every day brings new danger. Ambassador Cross sat in the human section. It was small, near the bottom of the chamber. Humans had only been members of the council for 30 years. They had not earned much respect in that time. Now they had earned something worse. They had earned fear. Looked around the chamber. She saw the with their green scales and cold eyes. She saw the with their insect bodies and clicking mandibles. She saw the who looked like floating jellyfish. She saw the who were made of living stone. Each species was different, but today they all shared the same expression. They were afraid. And they were afraid of her people. The speaker of the rose to address the chamber. Her name was Kay. She was old, even by standards. She had lived for 4,000 years. She had seen many things. I have watched the humans since they first learned to travel between stars, Kay said. They are clever, they are brave, but they are also reckless. They do not think before they act. They do not consider the consequences of their choices. She held up a data pad. In the past 30 days, human thoughts have triggered 417 incidents. 417 times, ancient technology has responded to human wishes. Most of these incidents were harmless, but some were not. Kay read from the list. A human engineer had wished for unlimited energy. A machine on a distant moon had tried to turn a star into a power source. The star had almost exploded before the machine was stopped. A human child had dreamed of flying. A satellite had created a gravity bubble around her house. Her entire neighborhood had floated into the air. A human soldier had remembered a battle he had fought years ago. He had wished that his dead friends were still alive. On a planet 200 light-years away, a machine had started creating copies of those dead soldiers. The copies were not quite right. They were not quite alive. They had to be destroyed before they escaped. "This cannot continue," Kay said. "The humans do not know how to control their own minds. They are children, and children should not be given the keys to the universe." Felt sick. She wanted to argue. She wanted to say that humans were trying, that they were learning, that they did not mean to cause harm. But she could not deny the truth. Humans were causing harm, not on purpose, but harm was harm. Counselor nodded slowly. "What does the council recommend?" The spoke next. Their representative was a being made of black rock with veins of gold running through its body. Its voice sounded like grinding stones. "We should quarantine the human systems," they said. "Cut them off from the rest of the galaxy. Let them keep their technology, but do not let them spread. In time they will learn control, or they will destroy themselves." "That is too gentle," said Ambassador of the. "We should destroy the console on 442B, cut the connection between humans and the architect systems, make them ordinary again." "And if that does not work?" asked. Three eyes blinked slowly. "Then we destroy the humans themselves, before they destroy everything else." The chamber erupted in noise. Some species agreed with, others thought he was too harsh. The who were known for being peaceful argued that killing an entire species was wrong. They reminded everyone that the architects had left their technology for a reason. Stood up, she walked to the center of the chamber. The noise faded as everyone turned to look at her. "I hear your fears," she said. "I understand them. My species has caused problems. We have made mistakes. We are sorry for the harm we have caused." She paused and looked around the room. "But we did not ask for this power. We did not seek it. We found something that was hidden for billions of years and it responded to us. Why? Why did it choose us?" His yellow eyes narrowed. "You think you are special." "No," said. "I think we are different. Our minds work in a way that the architect technology recognizes. Maybe that is good. Maybe that is bad, but it means something. The architects built this system for a reason. They left it dormant for billions of years waiting for someone, and now it has woken up. It has chosen us." "That does not give you the right to endanger us all," Kay said. "No, it does not, but it should make you ask questions. Why did the architects build this system? What did they want it to do? What happens if you destroy it? What happens if you destroy us?" Silence fell over the chamber. His words hung in the air like smoke. Leaned forward. "Are you threatening us, Ambassador?" "No, I am asking you to think. You have spent thousands of years studying the architects. You have found their ruins on 100 worlds. You have learned to use some of their technology, but you have never understood why they built it. You have never understood what they wanted." Pointed up at the stars visible through the glass ceiling. "Maybe we are the answer. Maybe humans are what the architects were waiting for, and if you destroy us, you will never know." The chamber was quiet for a long time. Finally spoke. "The council will consider your words. We will make our decision in 3 days. Until then, your ships will remain in human space. Your people will not activate any more architect technology. If you cause one more incident, we will act without further discussion." Nodded. It was not a victory, but it was not a death sentence either. She had bought time. She walked back to her seat. Her hands were shaking. She had done her best, but she did not know if it was enough. 3 days. That was all they had. 3 days to prove that humanity was not a danger to the galaxy. 3 days to figure out why the architects had built their machines. 3 days to learn how to change the channel without breaking the television. Looked up at the stars and made a wish. She wished for understanding. She wished for wisdom. She wished for time. Somewhere in the galaxy, a machine heard her wish. But this time, it did not respond. Some wishes were not for machines to grant. Some wishes were for humans to earn. Dr. Sam had not left the buried room on 442B in 3 weeks. He slept on a cot in the corner. He ate food from packages. He stared at the glowing console until his eyes hurt. Sam was not an archaeologist like Amy. He was a cognitive scientist. He studied how minds worked. He studied how humans thought and felt and made decisions. Admiral Price had sent him here because she believed that understanding the human mind was the key to understanding the architect technology. She was right. Amy sat across from him, drinking cold coffee. Her eyes were red from lack of sleep. "What have you found?" she asked. Sam pointed at the symbols on the console. He had been studying them for days. He had compared them to every known language in the galaxy. He had run them through every translation program. "These are not words," he said. "They are patterns, mathematical patterns. They describe how minds work, how thoughts form, how consciousness flows." Amy frowned. The architects were studying the brain. More than that, they were building a system that could connect to any conscious mind, a system that could understand what that mind wanted and then make it real. Sam stood up and walked around the console. "Think about how we use technology. We press buttons. We type commands. We tell machines exactly what to do step by step. It is slow. It is limited. We can only do what we know how to ask for." He touched one of the crystals. It glowed brighter under his fingers. "But this system is different. It does not wait for commands. It reads the mind directly. It understands wishes and dreams and idle thoughts, and it acts on them." Amy shook her head. "That sounds dangerous." "It is for most species that have rigid minds. They think in straight lines. They do not dream. They do not wonder. When they use architect technology, they give it precise instructions and get precise results." Sam looked at Amy. "But human minds are different. We are messy. We are creative. We think in spirals and loops. We have random thoughts and strange ideas. We dream about impossible things. And the architect technology responds to that. Not just responds. It was designed for it. Look at these patterns." Sam pointed at a section of the console. "These symbols describe a mind that jumps from thought to thought, a mind that asks questions without expecting answers, a mind that reaches for things it does not understand." Amy felt a chill run down her spine. "You are describing humans." "Yes, the architects built this system for a species that did not exist yet, a species that would come billions of years after they were gone, a species that would think the way they needed it to think." Amy sat down heavily. Why would they do that? Sam had been asking himself the same question. He had spent many nights thinking about it, and finally, he had found an answer. "The other species in the council are old," he said. "They have been traveling the stars for thousands of years. They have built great civilizations, but they have also stopped growing. They do not explore anymore. They do not invent anymore. They protect what they have and fear what they do not know." He looked at the console. "I think the architects saw this coming. They knew that any species that lasted long enough would become careful, would become afraid, would stop reaching for new things. So they built a system that would only respond to a species that had not stopped reaching. Yes, a species that was young, a species that was curious, a species that would push every button and pull every lever just to see what happened." Amy laughed, but there was no humor in it. "They wanted children. They wanted cubs. They wanted humans or something like us. They wanted a species that would use their technology the way it was meant to be used, not carefully, not slowly, but with excitement and wonder and no fear." The door to the room opened. Admiral Price walked in. She had come to 442B herself. The situation was too important for video calls. "I just spoke with the council," she said. "We have 2 days left. If we cannot give them a reason to trust us, they will quarantine human space. Some of them want to do worse." Sam nodded. "I have a reason, but they will not like it." Laura sat down and listened as Sam explained what he had discovered. When he finished, she was quiet for a long time. "You are saying that the architects wanted humanity to have this power," she said finally. "That we are exactly what they were looking for." "Yes. And you want me to tell the council that their careful, controlled approach to architect technology has been wrong for thousands of years? That they have been missing the point all along?" Sam nodded. Laura laughed. It was a tired, hopeless laugh. "They will never accept that. They will think we are making excuses. They will think we are being arrogant." "Maybe," Sam said, "but it is also the truth, and the truth is all we have." Amy spoke up. "There might be a way to prove it. I have been studying the console's deeper systems. There is a message hidden in them, a message that has never been accessed. The architects left it for whoever activated the system." Laura felt hope stir in her chest. "Can you find it? Can you show it to the council?" "I think so, but it requires someone to interface with the console directly, to let the system read their mind completely. It is dangerous. The person might not survive." Laura looked at Sam. "You discovered this. You understand it better than anyone. Will you do it?" Sam thought about his wife back on Earth. He thought about his daughter, who was 5 years old and loved to ask questions. He thought about all the things he had not done yet. Then he thought about the stars. He thought about the billions of worlds waiting to be explored. He thought about the future that humanity could have if they survived. "Yes," he said, "I will do it." He walked to the console. The crystals pulsed with light, as if they knew what was coming. Sam placed both hands on the surface and closed his eyes. The light filled his mind. He saw the architects. They were not like any species he had known. They were made of light and energy. They had no physical form, but they had thoughts. They had dreams. They had hopes. He saw what they had seen. A galaxy growing old, species becoming careful, exploration slowing down, wonder fading. He saw what they had done. They had built a network of machines that would wait for millions of years, wait for billions of years, wait for a species that would use them properly. And he saw the message they had left. When Sam opened his eyes, tears were running down his face. The console was dim now. It had given him everything it had. "I know what to tell the council," he said. Laura leaned forward. "What did you see? What is the message?" Sam smiled. It was the smile of a man who had seen something beautiful, something that made all the fear worthwhile. "The architects built this for us," he said. For humans, for species like us. Because we are not careful, because we are not afraid, because we reach for things we do not understand and try to make them ours." He looked at the console. The galaxy is not a museum, it is a playground, and they were waiting for someone who would actually play. Laura did not know if the council would believe it. She did not know if they could prove it. But for the first time in weeks, she felt something that she had almost forgotten. She felt hope. The council chamber was full. Every species had sent their leaders. Every seat was taken. The glass dome above showed a sky full of stars, and for the first time in weeks, those stars did not seem threatening. They seemed like possibilities. Commander Jake Collins stood at the center of the chamber. Beside him were Admiral Laura Price, Ambassador Cross, Dr. Amy, and Dr. Sam. They were a small group, standing before the judgment of 26 species. High Counselor looked down at them with his yellow eyes. "You asked for this audience. You said you had something to show us. Speak now." Laura stepped forward. "Thank you, High Counselor. We know that our species has caused problems. We know that we have triggered technology we do not fully understand. We know that we have frightened you." She paused and looked around the chamber. "But we have also learned something, something that changes everything." She nodded to Amy, who activated a holographic display. The image showed the console on 442B. It showed the symbols that covered its surface. It showed the patterns that Sam had decoded. The architect technology was not designed for careful use, Laura said. It was not designed for species that think in straight lines. It was designed for species like us, species that dream, species that wonder, species that reach for things without knowing what they will find. Ambassador of the made a clicking sound. This is arrogance. You are saying that humans are special, that you are better than us. No, Sam said, stepping forward. We are not better, we are different. The architects understood something that took me weeks to see. Different minds have different strengths. He pointed at the holographic display. Your species, Ambassador, has built great things. You have created technologies that last for thousands of years. You have systems of government that do not fail. You are patient and careful and wise. Sam looked around the chamber. The same is true for all of you. They have knowledge that spans 12,000 years. They have achieved peace between their worlds for longer than humanity has existed. They have built structures that will stand for millions of years. He spread his hands. But there is one thing that none of you do anymore. You do not play. You do not experiment without knowing the outcome. You do not ask questions that you cannot answer. Counselor's eyes narrowed. We grew out of such things. We learned that random actions have consequences. We learned to be careful. Yes, Sam said. And in doing so, you stopped using the architect technology as it was meant to be used. You unlocked a few systems over thousands of years. You studied them carefully. You made slow progress, but you never let the technology respond to your full potential. Amy activated another part of the display. It showed a map of the galaxy. Thousands of points of light appeared, scattered across the stars. This is what we have awakened in 6 months, Amy said. Gateways to other galaxies, engines that bend space, systems that can heal sick worlds and stabilize dying stars. All of this was dormant. All of this was waiting. Waiting for what? Asked. For someone to want it badly enough. For someone to imagine it without fear. For someone to reach out and take it. The chamber was silent. The older species looked at the map. They saw the possibilities that humans had unlocked, possibilities that they had walked past for thousands of years without seeing. Laura spoke again. We know we have caused chaos, but we have also done good things. 3 days ago, a colony world was dying. Their star was going unstable. They had years, maybe decades, before their sun killed them. She pointed at a spot on the map. One of our engineers, a woman named Day, learned about this. She wanted to help. She thought about what it would take to stabilize a star. The architect technology heard her. It responded. The star is stable now. 12 billion will live because a human wished for it. Was quiet for a long moment. Finally, he spoke. I have seen the reports. Your engineer did save that world, but she did not know what she was doing. She did not understand the technology. It could have gone wrong. Yes, Laura admitted. It could have, but it did not. And that is the point. The architect technology is not random. It is learning. It is learning how humans think. It is calibrating itself to our minds. Every day it becomes more precise. Every day the chaos decreases and the useful results increase. Sam stepped forward again. There is one more thing, the message that the architects left. I found it when I interfaced with the console. I can show it to you now. He closed his eyes. The holographic display changed. Instead of maps and symbols, it showed a simple image. A door standing open with light streaming through. And then there were words. Words that appeared in every language at once, so that every species could understand. The words said, "We built this for those who reach without fear. The galaxy is not a museum. It is a playground. Use it." The chamber was silent. The words hung in the air, glowing against the darkness. Ambassador spoke first. These could be fake. You could have created this message yourselves. We could have, Sam admitted. But we did not. And I think you know that. I think you can feel it. The architects left this technology for a reason. They did not want it to sit unused for billions of years. They wanted someone to find it, someone who would not be afraid to play with it. Stood up, he was very tall, and his shadow fell across the human delegation. I have lived for 800 years, he said. I have seen many things. I have seen species rise and fall. I have seen technology used for good and for evil. I have learned to be careful because carelessness leads to disaster. He looked down at the humans. But I have also seen something in the past 6 months that I have not seen in centuries. I have seen excitement. I have seen wonder. I have seen species that had forgotten how to dream beginning to dream again. He paused. Your chaos has been frightening, but it has also been interesting. For the first time in a long time, the galaxy feels alive. The chamber stirred. Other counselors were nodding. They were pulsing with colors that meant agreement. Even the seemed less stony than usual. Raised his hand. I propose a new arrangement. The humans will not be quarantined. They will not be destroyed. Instead, they will be watched. They will be taught. And in return, they will teach us. He looked at Laura. You will share what you learn. You will work with the older species. You will help us remember how to reach without fear. Laura felt tears in her eyes. We will, I promise. Nodded slowly. Then it is decided. The Cubs have found the remote control, and perhaps they will teach us how to use it. The vote was held. It was not unanimous. Some species still wanted humans punished or controlled, but the majority agreed with humanity would survive. More than that, humanity would lead. After the vote, Jake found himself standing alone by the great window of the chamber. He looked out at the stars. They seemed brighter now, or maybe he was just seeing them differently. Amy walked up beside him. We did it, she said. We actually did it. Jake nodded. We did, but this is just the beginning. There is so much more to discover, so many more buttons to push. Amy laughed. That is a very human way to think about it. I know, but that is what we are. We are the species that pushes buttons. We are the species that asks what if. We are the species that reaches for things we do not understand. He looked at the stars again. Somewhere out there, ancient machines were waiting. They were waiting for humans to want something. They were waiting for humans to dream. And humans always dreamed. The Cubs had discovered the remote control. The television had not stopped changing channels. But now, the whole galaxy was starting to watch. And they were beginning to realize that maybe, just maybe, the show had only just begun.